So I used to work 90 hours per week, and then my salary was like washing my hair in the sink, sleeping on the couch in a restaurant.
And you still had to get up early to make coffee for the main chef.
Before anyone comes in.
Hey guys and girls on Ask Japanese, it's your flashy fashion reporter Kathy Cat, and today we had the pleasure to actually meet a gentleman in Tokyo who was willing to share his story why he left Japan and why he prefers to live abroad. There's some vital facts he mentioned and some things even I didn't know, so let's go and ask Japanese. You have lived in Japan and in Australia. What big differences did you feel between those cultures?
The issue is gonna be like a very specific hierarchy. Yeah.
Junior, senior hierarchy issue?
In Australia, we don't have that. But that's kind of issue as well. So because even if the person is younger than you, even if the person doesn't have a skill, if you say something, they talk back. They're like, I'm doing fine, What's the problem?
They won't listen.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that you're older and have more experience.
Yeah.
Also, I heard actually that in Australia, the hierarchy is the lowest in the world, while in Japan, it's the highest in the world. How do you feel about that?
I'm pretty sure that Japan is the highest, but I didn't know that Australia is the lowest. But I think that makes sense because in Australia, we have a lot of people from all over the world. Indian, like Indonesia, or even from Europe. Everyone has a different culture, so we need kind of like respect each other.
Right. Now, you came here to Japan and you're actually leaving quite quickly, so I have the feeling you didn't want to stay long. So what do you like so much about Australia that you maybe can't find in Japan?
It's more chill, more relaxed. Not many people in the city. You don't have to bump to people and then walk on the street. Less working hours, more salary.
So I should probably have asked this question in one way. Why are you leaving Japan?
I think back then I'm kind of like sick of living in Australia. In Japan.
Why?
Because I'm still working in a restaurant, but when I was working in a restaurant in Japan, because of the hierarchy, working so many hours, but yet my salary was very low, so I kind of get tired. And then back then, I always wanted to live in another country. So that's why I flew to Australia.
So you said you worked a lot, your salary was low, and you had to very care after the cook. Could you explain what you had to do for the cook or when the chef when he came in?
Restaurant where I used to work at, I need to think about like what time chef will come to the restaurant. So I start boiling the coffee, prepare the coffee for him. Even in the kitchen, he's a very old school style. So he's not gonna teach you everything from 1 to 10.
Oh no!
He started doing something, I just kind of like stand next to him, start working with him. And if I'm doing okay, he's not gonna say anything. He just let him do it. He let me do it. And then if something goes wrong, he's like, okay, don't touch it. I'll do it.
Oh.
And I'm just kind of like standing and watch him. And I need to think about like what was wrong. But sometimes if he's in a bad mood, he suddenly like yell at me like, okay, I don't need you to get up from the kitchen, just clean outside.
Oh God, chefs are very angry in all countries. I have the feeling German chefs also get very angry.
Oh yeah, I used to work with a German chef as well.
Yeah, they get angry, right? Yeah. But you told me the Japanese chef, they don't teach their juniors what to do.
Yeah.
They just...
It's kind of like old school style way, like, just watch and learn.
Oh man, that's a tricky one. How is that in Australia? Are the chefs different?
I heard that they used to be like that back then, but the chef that I work with right now, they're nice.
So no more shouting?
Sometimes chef yells at me because he knows where I came from. He kind of understands my cultural background, so he thinks like, oh, maybe you can handle it. So he yells at me sometimes.
Oh, what? No!
So, the other day, like, he yelled at me, and he's like, I don't need you anymore. Just go home.
Ooh.
And then, of course, that night was, everything was finished. I cleaned up everything, so there's nothing to do. So I just, like, packed my stuff. I decided to go home. And then chef was like, are you coming back? And I'm like, yes. And then he was like, you sure? You think about it, because I don't need you,
Whoa.
I don't mind if you don't come back.
Whoa.
And I'm like, it's okay, I'll come back. So next morning when I come back, he was like so nervous and like, Akio, you okay? How are you today? I'm fine, chef. So he seems like he felt a bit guilty.
He regretted what he said. Do you think that's like a typical thing that like foreigners are a little bit less, what's the word, honest with their feelings, Like they're like, they get angry, but then they're like, are you okay? Tsundere?
I don't think they're tsundere.
Okay.
Yeah. But Australian are a bit different. I think same as like French or Italian, they make jokes.
So that was his kind of way of joking?
People, instead of like yelling at them, they make joke and then try to make like everything is okay.
What do you love about Australia then?
It's just easy to live because of the salary and the working hours. Australia is very strict with the working hours. Even if you're on a full time, like Seishain, you should only work like 38 hours. If you work more than that, the company has to pay by hour.
You said you had to do a lot of overtime and you weren't paid well in Japan. How much was like a big working week for you in Japan?
It depends on where you work at, but my chef was a like very famous chef. It's one of the like top French chef in Japan back in 80s and 90s.
And he was Japanese.
Yes. So I used to work 90 hours per week, and then my salary was like 12 man, so which is like $1,200 a month.
No wonder he left. Yeah.
And then my first year, from mid of November until end of the year, 43 days, no day off. And around the Christmas season, I couldn't even go home. I was sleeping on a couch in a restaurant.
What?
I was working from like 7 a.m. until like 3 a.m. The sink in the kitchen was my shower. Like I was washing my hair in the sink, sleeping on a couch in a restaurant.
And you still had to get up early to make coffee for the main chef.
Before anyone comes in, because I was the youngest person, so I have to come and prepare everything before anyone comes in.
Oh, now I understand what you mean with the kind of junior, senior hierarchy
But not
stress.
only like restaurant industry, even like if you work in like a salaryman, when your boss said like, hey, let's grab some coffee, not coffee, grab some drinks, you have to say yes.
You can't just say, oh, I can't do tonight. Now you got to go for drinks with your boss.
Yeah, but that's very annoying here.
Those were all of our questions. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. The high standard of working or the working culture in Japan is a thing that generally gets brought up quite a lot by Japanese people and by foreigners who are considering to live in Japan. A lot of the working standards might be a lot different to maybe compare it in your country. So for example, holidays, you don't really get that many holidays in Japan. The average starts around maybe 6 holidays and such. And some people actually, for example, in my company, don't take their holidays because they're saving them up in case they get sick. You also get an average sometimes of about 6 sick days, and those 6 sick days, once they're over, it depends on your company, but it could be that you actually don't get paid for them, which means if you take a day off, they might subtract that from your salary and such. So there's quite a high working standard. Also, there is the contractor and the seishain, the fully employed person. A seishain, a fully employed person, generally applies for the company and not for a job, which means you might apply for one thing, but in the end you have a completely different job that you're doing because the boss just decided to move you somewhere else. And that is not uncommon. So you start maybe off as a teacher and you end up as a cameraman, like the director. And in between does maybe a little bit of anime. You will have to adapt to whatever your company tells you, but you're fully employed and you get the health benefits and the safety that generally the normal contractors, for example, don't get. So then we add the layer of the junior-senior relationship, the senpai-kohai relationship that you heard from the gentleman we talked about, that can add a lot of extra pressure to that as well. You can't go home until your boss goes home. You can't go home until your higher colleagues who've been longer in the company go home. And that kind of pressure can create a lot of stress for people, and a lot of people would like to opt out. Now, that is a very traditional working style. There are lots of new and upcoming companies right now that don't want to live like that anymore, that want to change things. So there are alternatives in Japan out there. Not all companies and seniors are as strict as the one that you heard, for example, in this video. Japan is changing for the better. But would you work under such an environment as you heard it in the video today? Or do you think you could not do that? Let us know in the comments down below. On that note, if you're curious about working in Japan, we mentioned some work rules you actually need to know about. There's loads more if you're thinking about living in Japan that you should know. So check this video out next about working rules in Japan. Thanks so much for checking us out. This was Kathy Cat, and I'll catch you soon on Ask Japanese.